So it's just a matter of having the mindset that, okay, I haven't done this in a while, but I'm going to do it no matter what it takes. When you go in, jump in with both feet, but don't feel like you have to make great strides at the beginning. It just have some patience. It takes time.
Okay, hope you're ready for this bio. Dara Torres, American former competitive swimmer who's a 12-time Olympic medalist and former world record holder in 3 events. First swimmer to represent the U.S. in 5 Olympic Games in 84, 88, 92, 2000, and 2008. And at age 41, was the oldest swimmer to earn a place on the U.S. Olympic team. With 12 Olympic medals, 4 gold, 4 silver, 4 bronze, she's one of 3 women with the most Olympic women's swimming medals. The others are fellow Americans Jenny Thompson and Natalie Coughlin. She won 5 medals at the 2000 Summer Olympics. Then at age 33, she was the oldest member of the 2000 U.S. Olympic swim team. She's also won at least 1 medal in each of the 5 Olympics in which she's competed, making her one of only a handful of Olympians to earn medals in 5 different games. Why do we want to talk to Dara? I think Dara knows a little bit about competition. I think she knows a little bit about what it takes to be the best at something. And I think as we think about the future of work, we should be thinking about how the best do what they do. Leveling up, upskilling, reskilling is an exercise in greatness. How you take a team member and get them ready to work and then consistently reskill them through a long work life is a challenge. And when I think about continuous lifelong development, you gotta think about Dara. I mean, she came out of retirement multiple times along her journey. She switched jobs, working as an accomplished anchor, as well as speaker, author, model, and entrepreneur, reskilling into new jobs. So we were lucky enough to catch up with Dara and talk a little bit about not just the future of work, but what she's learned along her Olympic journey. Let's bring it in.
Dara, developing skill in any sport, and obviously you know a little bit about that, is challenging. And today in the workforce, developing skill is a hot topic. You know, companies are thinking about how we skill up workers for jobs today. People are thinking about reskilling for the job of tomorrow. But when you think about skill development through your life experiences, being a successful Olympian athlete and so on, are there any things that come to mind as you think about how you perform at the best?
I think it's all about repetition. Every single athlete out there has to get the repetition in to make them the best they can be. And if you want to get the skills, you got to work at the little things too. So, all I can talk about is from my experiences, but, with swimming, different strokes evolutionized over the years. They are much different when I first started swimming till like later on in my career. And it was all about sort of being open to not doing the same thing over and over again that you're used to, and being open to change. I think athletes are very set in their ways. It's very hard to sort of break yourself out of that habit. So I think, being open to change, believing in what your boss, your coach says, and buying into it, I think are probably the most important things that I've learned over the years, in my athletic experience.
What does the role of the coach play in your own skill development journey?
They're kind of the boss. They tell you what to do. They're kind of like the person who guides you, I guess. They're kind of on the line too, because your performance will reflect, how they coached you a lot of the times, not all the time, but a lot of the times. And, I feel like the coach wants to make you be the best that you can be, which to me is very enticing, because you don't want to let your boss / coach down. And I think they're just sort of like the coach is the coach, a person who, you listen to, get guidance from, and learn from.
Do you think that anything is, if you were a coach today, do you think that something stylistically has changed for coaches in order to be more effective to, the kind of the new generation of athlete?
Yeah, I think you don't have to be a hard ass. I think there's a fine line between encouraging and, being tough on someone than going over that line and being like demeaning and stuff like that. Like I see that still. And I think a lot of coaches are more open to the athletes opening up to them, which in the past you never really talked to your coach about anything except swimming. And I think when I said before about guidance, I think they really are there to guide you, not just in your sport, but also through things through life, because you're with them all the time. And they're sort of like, I don't want to say a father figure. Like to me, it became like a brother figure because I was so old in the sport, but sort of like a father figure or a mother figure to you.
You've been through probably, obviously a lot of practice over your life. And you said a second ago, repetition is critical to skill development. Mm-hmm. What's the difference between good practice and bad practice?
I think bad practice is when you try something wrong and continue to do it in practice and don't correct it. And good practice is no matter how hard it is to change something you're not used to doing, to keep doing it in small portions until you have that and then develop the next skill and then the next skill. It's not about all doing it all at the same time in developing your skill. It's about taking little pieces of it, get that down, then go to the next one. And I think that's something that I really learned because the stroke changed so much over the years. I had to basically relearn how to swim, later on in my career. And that was hard. That was really hard for me.
What do you think about the role of, I guess, struggle in that? Because it sounds like piecing it together, while that makes sense, it's probably a lot of, almost accelerating failure by doing that. Or, I mean, what's the role of like failure in that process in your mind?
It's kind of high. So when I came back for the 2000 Olympics, I hadn't swum in 7 years. And I dove in and literally did 2 laps. And the coach was like, "Oh yeah, we don't swim like that anymore." I'm like, "What are you talking about?" And he said, "The stroke that you're swimming right now, we used to coach when you were younger. That was like the style, but everything has changed. The aerodynamics, where your hand position is, where your hand comes out at the end of your stroke, like everything changed." And and this is a true story. So I was relearning the stroke. The coach always did stroke drills in practice, every single practice. A lot of coaches don't do that. They may do it a couple times a week, but he was very adamant about getting the stroke correct. And so we would do stroke drills all the time. So about 9 months into training, about a month before, probably 4 or 5 weeks before Olympic trials, I go to a meet and he stops me in warm up and he said, "Dara, you know what? In swimming and freestyle, you have to rotate evenly on both sides. You're not swimming on your stomach when you swim front crawl or freestyle. You're actually swimming side to side." And he goes, "You're really rotating well on one side, but not on the other." And he said, "I want you to breathe every other stroke so you're rotating evenly on both sides." And I was like, "Well, I don't want to do that. It's 1 lap. You're supposed to hold your breath. Like, how am I going to win this?" He's like, "Dara, this is prelims. Don't worry about it." I said, "I will do this in prelims if you let me do that, if you let me go back to my stroke in finals so I can win the finals." And there were a lot of swimmers that were in that event going to Olympic trials in 4 or 5 weeks. So I kind of wanted to make a statement. He's like, yeah, no problem. So I swim in the morning. I do fine. It was fine. But, in this particular event, you try to hold your breath as long as you can because it's just 1 lap as fast as you can go. You try not to breathe a lot because you slow down when you breathe a lot. And so, so I get to the finals, I'm warming up and my coach comes up to me. He's like, "You know what? You're still not rotating evenly on both sides." I'm like, "Look, you said I can, breathe the way I normally breathe, which is to hold my breath." He's like, "Do you care about winning here? Or do you care about winning at the Olympic Games?" And I'm like, "Oh, okay, good point." So I get up on the starting blocks and I breathe the way he tells me to breathe. I touch the wall, I look up, American record, I won the event. And he comes up to me, he's like, "Well, I guess we know how to breathe coming up to Olympic trials and the Olympics." And that we did that through the Olympic trials. I get to the Olympic Games, I swim the prelims, the semifinals, you get to the finals. And he goes, "You know what, Dara, it's literally like 25 minutes before my race." He says, "You've done such a good job rotating side to side. I think you can go back to holding your breath now." Now, when you're an athlete and you're used to doing something a certain way and you get it in your head, you continue to do that. And so for him to change it on me about 25 minutes before the finals and said, "Okay, now you're good on that. Go back and hold your breath," after I've been practicing that for like 4 or 5 weeks, it was hard. Like, it was hard. I'm like, "Okay, I'll do that." And I ended up re-breaking the American record and I got a bronze in that event and did my best time. So it sort of goes to the mindset that you have to buy into what your coach or your boss is telling you to do.
You mentioned 7. I mean, that's wild. 7 years before you like jump back in the pool. And I was able to read age is just a number ahead of this. Mm-hmm. And that comeback is obviously something that is you're known for. There's a lot of workers today that are in many ways trying to make a comeback. You know, they've been off from the sidelines because of COVID. They're trying to recreate mm-hmm. themselves, recreate their resumes. They're kind of in many ways jumping back in the pool. What advice do you have for them?
Like, I think it would be, don't be afraid. I mean, once I literally, you talk about my book, like I write in there that I didn't touch the water for 7 years, like literally did not touch the water. Like the closest I get would be jumping in jacuzzi and going back out on my chaise lounge. Like that would be it. Like I didn't get in the pool at all for 7 straight years. So it's just a matter of having the mindset that, okay, I haven't done this in a while, but I'm going to do it. And no matter what it takes. And it wasn't easy at first. My coach didn't have me doing hard things for like 3 months. He's like, I just need you to relearn the stroke. I need you to, you know, just kind of get your bearings again. And so when you go in, jump in with both feet, but don't feel like you have to make like great strides at the beginning. It just have some patience. It takes time.
I have a 5-year-old daughter. We just came back from Jamaica and she's like swimming like crazy, by the way. Totally awesome. Side story.
Awesome.
What did my wife played college soccer. We were college athletes. We're starting to think about sports. And what advice do you have for me as a father and a parent and a coach about, you know, how to put her in the best position to be successful?
Well, one thing is don't live through your kid. And if you've been in sports, you probably won't, but a lot of parents haven't been in sports and they put their kids in sports and they make idiots of themselves on the sidelines, on the bleachers. You know, I've seen it all. You know, for me personally, I had my daughter do a lot of different sports. Like she was in dance, she did soccer, she did tennis. And I just let her kind of decide what she wanted to do. Like I knew nothing about lacrosse, like not one thing. And that's what she wanted to do. And I'm like, okay. And I still can barely like, I don't know what the plays are. I don't know anything. I stay to myself. But, you know, I do encourage her. And once in a while I'll say, go test. And she looks at me like, shut up. But, you know, for the most part, I let the coach basically. And, you know, I can give her some advice from my point of view as far as like training goes, but you really just let the coaches coach.
Dara, last question for you. Thank you. We talk a lot about the future of work and a lot of folks talk about that in terms of, you know, the robot that's going to flip your hamburger for you.
Yeah.
Thinking about it more in terms of people and, you know, the things people come to work every day. What is your hope for the future of work?
That's a tough one. All my work's on the road, so I don't have to go to an office or anything, you know, so that's a tough question for me. But, you know, I think a lot of people are enjoying working from home after this whole COVID thing hit. I think some people use that as an excuse. I think some people just work better from home. I think just, you know, do what's best for you. And you know, I just feel like, and me personally, I feel like I got a little lazy during COVID and stuff, started watching all these Netflix shows, and it's kind of hard to get out of that, but there's so much life out there, you know, there's so much you can accomplish. And after I kind of got out of that rut, I was able to sort of kind of find my footing and get back into like hustling, trying to get work and, you know, doing stuff with my daughter and just kind of getting that energy back. And it takes a little bit, but just know it will come back.
Dara, thank you for taking the time.
You're welcome. My pleasure.
This was a fast one. Now, Dara's an Olympic swimmer, so I guess it goes without saying. You know, I think one of the things that sticks out with me most that Dara brought up in the conversation, no doubt talking about repetition, talking about how failure is important, talking about how the role of a coach is important, even now as Dara as a parent, thinking about the role of coaches. I think the most powerful thing that she shared was talking about how she had to literally relearn some strokes or relearn how to swim. I mean, she had to relearn how to swim. You know, she mentioned when she came back, her coach said, you know, that's not the way we swim anymore. Could you imagine coming back to a job that you've won Olympic medals at, Jaime, and your coach is like, you know what? The way you're swimming isn't good enough. Can you imagine that?
Can't feel good.
Do you know how to swim?
Yeah, not well.
Okay.
I don't know how to swim.
Got it. Maybe Dara will do some lessons. But, I think that's wild. And I think about today's workforce, where the functions of work and the functions of certain jobs are changing at a rapid pace. And leaders within organizations, talent teams, we need to be really good at coaching and developing our people as the role that they hold or as the jobs they have change. You can make the argument that workers today need to be agile learners more than ever. And our coaches need to be just as good. Head on over to your local bookstore and pick up Age is Just a Number, Achieve Your Dreams at Any Stage in Your Life by Dara Torres. Thank you to Dara for stopping by and making some time to talk with us. Now, don't forget to subscribe to Bring It In so you never miss an episode. We've got some awesome guests lined up that you're not going to want to miss. Now, back to work.